Good morning, good afternoon, honorable members. Good afternoon, everyone who is logged into this virtual plenary session. Let me also greet the Minister of Transport together with the executive members on this platform and their departments. Honorable members, there will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you, honorable members. Honorable members, before we proceed, I would like to remind you that the virtual mini plenary is deemed to be in the precinct of Parliament and constitutes a meeting of the National Assembly for debating purposes only. In addition to the rules of the virtual sittings, the rules of the National Assembly, including the rules of the debate, shall apply. Members enjoy the same powers and privileges that apply in a sitting of the National Assembly. Members should equally note that anything said in the virtual platform is deemed to have been said to the House and may be ruled upon. All members who have logged in shall be considered to be present and are requested to mute their microphones and only unmute when recognized to speak. This is because the mics are very sensitive and will pick up noise which might disturb the attention of other members. When recognized, speak, please unmute your microphone and connect your video. We will understand in terms of the power. People might experience load shedding. You might just inform that you won't be able to open your video. Many members may make use of the icons on the bar at the bottom of their screens, which has an option that allows a member to put up his or her hand to raise points of order. The Secretariat will assist in alerting the chairperson to members requesting to speak. When using the virtual system, members are urged to refrain or desist from unnecessary points of order or interjections. Honorable members, we shall now proceed to the order, which is a debate on Vote 40, transport. I will now invite the Honorable Minister of Transport, Honorable Balula. You may proceed, Honorable Balula. I think you are still muted.
Can you hear me now, House Chair?
Yes, Honorable Minister, we now can hear you, although your camera, I don't know, it's played somehow, but you may proceed.
Oh, you can't see me. Thank you, House Chair.
But
thank you, House Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Transport, Honorable Msebenzi Zwane, Deputy Minister, Ms. Sindisiwe Chikunga, Chairpersons of Transport Entities, and CEOs present here today, honorable members, fellow South Africans. I must thank the Portfolio Committee on Transport for the robust and uncompromising oversight. Your leadership and guidance has kept us on a path that places the aspirations of the people at the center of development and service delivery. Allow me to also congratulate the newly elected leadership of Santaco, Mr. Abna Tsebe and his leadership collective on the successful electoral conference that they ushered in the new leadership. The profound words of the renowned American poet, novelist, and activist, Maya Angelou, set the tone for our budget vote this year when she said, I quote, "I've learned that people will not forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." Close quote. This is the essence of our approach to service delivery. Delivering services that people can see, can experience, and most importantly, transform their lives in ways that make them feel the progress we are making. At the beginning of the term of the sixth administration, we identified 5 ministerial priorities, which defined the change agenda that are not only meant to change the way we approach service delivery, but by focusing on tangible deliverables, but also to give practical expression to accelerated service delivery. Over the medium term, the department's planned expenditure will increase at an average annual rate of 7.7%. This means an increase from 69.1 million $69.1 billion in 2022-2023 to 81.6 billion in 2024-2025. We have in the recent past agreed that the challenges experienced by our people cannot be adequately addressed unless we exponentially improve the capacity of the state to deliver services efficiently, ensuring that those entrusted with the responsibility to deliver on our service delivery mandate across all our entities and the department have the requisite skills and are fit for purpose is non-negotiable. The road transport programs facilitates activities related to maintenance of country's national and provincial road network. An allocation of 79.4 billion goes to the South African National Roads Agency, SANRAL. Transfers to SANRAL account for 33.5% of the department's budget over the medium term and 65.5% of the budget of the road transport program. Over the medium term, 43.3 billion or 59.3% of the allocation to SANRAL is budgeted to upgrade, strengthen and refurbish the national non-toll roads network. An amount of 2.8 billion is allocated for the 573, better known as Munoto Road. A budget of 3.7 billion is allocated for the M2 Wild Coast project and 2.1 billion allocated to fund reduced tariffs for the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project. We have been working closely with the Minister of Finance to finalize outstanding matters that will enable the final determination by Cabinet on the funding of the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project, better known as ETOS. We are alive to the adverse impact the delay in making the final decision on e-tolls as on the central balance sheet and its ability to raise capital for its catalytic projects. This is a matter cabinet
Oh, sorry. You may proceed, Minister.
Thank you. We've been working closely with the Minister of Finance to finalize the outstanding matters that will enable the finalization by Cabinet on the funding of the Gauteng Freeway project. This is a matter Cabinet has on its radar, and a pronouncement will be made once the final decision has been made. I can report that the decision is imminent, albeit the fact that it took us a long time. The maintenance of provincial and municipal roads remains one of our biggest challenges. Schedule 5 of the Constitution provides that provincial roads are an area of exclusive provincial legislative competence, while municipal roads are exclusive municipal functions. Despite these provisions, the national sphere of government has a responsibility to ensure that these roads are managed within a framework of national norms and standards to maximize their role in enabling economic activity and access to social amenities. The maintenance of provincial roads is largely funded through the Provincial Roads Maintenance Grant with an allocation of 37.4 billion over the medium term. Over the medium term, we have earmarked resources to finance the acquisition of a central road data repository that will provide a comprehensive and uniform overview of the state of South Africa's provincial roads. We are committed to provide the necessary support to ensure that there is adequate capacity to deliver roads that enable citizens to access centers of economic activity and social infrastructure. Through our collective efforts with the private sector and civil society, we will embrace creative solutions to decisively tackle potholes that have become a defining character of our secondary and tertiary road networks. This financial year, we will reprioritize our resources to establish a project management unit that will serve as an engineering and project management knowledge repository to assist provinces and municipalities in giving traction to projects funded through the conditional grants. This unit will also serve as a hub to monitor and track our portfolio of capital projects across all our amenities. We will ensure requisite support on capital programs of our entities. This unit will tap into engineering and project management collective capacity of all our entities, reinforced by collaboration with our organs of state. Our efforts to reduce carnage on our roads by 25% in 2024 remain firmly on track. We have been making steady progress with the reduction of fatalities by 20.27 in 2019 and 2020 and 19.73% in 2020-2021 and 20.02% in the first 3 quarters of 2021-2022 financial year. Although the reduction is largely attributed to reduced traffic volumes due to COVID-19 restrictions, the increased visibility of our officers on the roads also played a significant part. We are making progress towards classifying traffic policing as a 24/7 day job, with several provinces having scheduled resolutions by their executive councils to this effect. The completion of this process will enable us to table the matter before the General Public Sector Bargaining Council during this year. As a lead agency in traffic law enforcement, the allocation to the RTMC increases from 224 million in 2022 to 229 million in 2024. The allocation to the RTMC, Traffic Enforcement Agency, RTIA, decreases from 174 million 2022 to 159 2024, with anticipated new revenue streams once the Administration Adjudication of Traffic Offences Act is fully implemented. Over the last 5 years, the operating model of the Road Accident Fund, which was anchored around litigation, saw the actual liability of RAF increase exponentially. To address this unsustainable model, RAF adopted a new strategic plan in 2020-2021 financial year. Through this plan, a new operating model was adopted, which was anchored on reducing legal costs and therefore a move away from litigation to claims management, thus prioritizing early investigation and settlement of claims within 120 days. In addition, the RAF has put efforts on the reduction of medical costs, but among others, developing RAF medical tariffs, implementing treatment protocols, and introducing medical pre-authorization. The RAF is also looking for cost-effective ways to reimburse medical service providers when road accident victims seek medical care in both the private and public sector. This will be finalized once consultations with the Department of Health have been concluded. In the last year, we committed to a process to rationalize our road traffic entities in order to achieve maximum efficiency and the alignment of related functions through institutional alignment. This exercise will be premised on the sound business case, which will look at the mandates and institutional arrangements in relation to RTMC, RTIA, TLCA, and CBRTA. Improving efficiencies at TLTC's level will be driven by a new service delivery model that will not only improve the experience of the motorist, but will drastically cut down turnaround times. This will range from the time a motorist spends at the TLTC to the time it takes to receive a driving license. We have already implemented the online payment system, eliminating another queue the motorist would have spent time on the past. The deployment of smart enrollment infrastructure this financial year will further improve the processing time as the units are linked to Home Affairs real time to validate the identity of the motorist. The RTMC is finalizing the agreement with the Health Professions Council of South Africa, which would enable motorists to do an eye test, an optometrist of their choice, and results are directly uploaded in the system. We have made notable progress in tackling the backlog in the printing of cards. We have already eliminated the backlog caused by the breakdown of the machine in November 2021. Since January 2022, the driving license card account, TLCA, has produced 1,026,674 cards. As on 16 November 2022, we remain with a backlog of 526,841 cards. With the additional capacity we have introduced at TLCA, we are confident that this backlog will be addressed by the end of June 2022. We remain resolute in our commitment to deliver a public transport system that is responsive to the needs of our people. Our primary objective is to position public transport as an enabler to achieve a three-shift economy that will accelerate our economic recovery interventions. The implementation of the IPTNs in various cities has not been without problems. Capacity challenges in some cities have given rise to complications that have either delayed or stalled the process. The suspension of the cities of Umsunduzi, Buffalo City, and Bombela had the effect of delaying delivery of a public transport that is responsive to the needs of our people. We have committed that we will work with the cities to assist them in complying with the national treasury requirements to get back on the fold of the public transport network. The rollout of the IPTX will be equally strengthened by the establishment of an oversight mechanism under the leadership of the minister and political principals of relevant cities implementing IPTX. This will ensure that accountability for implementation of the integrated public transport network is pitched at high level. 7 cities are already operational and are working towards expanding current services. These are the city of Cape Town, George, Ekurhuleni, Johannesburg, Tshwane, Nelson Mandela Bay, and Polokwane. 3 additional cities are working towards the launch of new services. These are Rustenburg, Mangaung, and eThekwini. eThekwini is currently experiencing challenges due to unsuccessful negotiations with the taxi operators on the affected routes. Over the medium term, all 10 cities are expected to be fully operational, with expansions to directly serve major cities. Transfer to cities of the public transport network grant are set to increase at an average annual rate of 14.3% from 6 billion rand 2022-23 to 7.7 billion rand in 2024-2025. Over the medium term, 76 million rand has been allocated towards expanding the capacity for public transport grant monitoring. The department has commenced with the process to procure expert and technical services to monitor, oversee, and fast-track implementation of city level and improve efficiency and probity. City and provinces must deliver on their public transport executive obligations. This section empowers the minister to take appropriate steps that include issuing directives to provincial executive and municipal councils when a province or a municipality cannot or do not fulfill an executive obligation relating to public transport. We are on course in the implementation of the National Taxi Lekgotla resolutions. Key among these is the finalization of the subsidy policy underpinned by a public transport funding model that recognizes the role of the taxi industry in the public transport value chain. The draft policy will be submitted to Cabinet in June 2022 to pave way for a broader consultation process towards finalization. Our public transport infrastructure is in a major state of despair because of theft and vandalism that has crippled our rail recovery interventions. The criminals who continue to undermine our efforts to provide reliable commuter rail services must face full might of the law. Their conduct not only negatively affects workers who rely on this mode, but also cripples the economy. We have equally called for the ban of scrap metal exports, which provide a perverse incentive for this criminality. We remain ready to work with Minister of Trade and Competition to ensure that such a ban becomes a reality. The implementation of our multidisciplinary security interventions has gained traction with the employment of full complement of 3,100 security and personnel, and the construction of walls in certain sections of the rail network and fencing in others to contain what has historically been an open network. In recognizing the centrality of providing affordable, safe, and reliable public transport services, capital transfers to the passenger rail will increase from 12.6 billion in 2022 to 2023 to 13.5 billion in 2022-2025. These funds will be channeled towards refurbishment of coaches, rolling stock fleet renewal program, signaling, other capital projects, which includes security of the rail infrastructure. Operational transfers to PRASA are expected to increase from 7.2 billion 2022 to 7.8 billion 2024-25. In recovering commuter rail services, we had to adjust the timelines for the resumption of services in a number of these corridors due to either protracted procurement processes for infrastructure such as substations and other factors beyond our control. The Mabopane, Pretoria, Johannesburg, Naledi is a core network of PRASA in Gauteng and a major
Minister, My apologies. Let me just say it to other members. When I switch on my video, be sure that you have 1 minute left to wrap up. I'm sorry I didn't say this before.
So should I wrap up?
No, it's done now. I had long put my face on, but because I didn't warn you, my apologies.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, House Chair. Thank you very
much. Thank you, honorable members. We now proceed and invite from the ANC, the chairperson of the committee, Honorable Zwani.
Honorable House Chair, Mayor MG Boroto, the Honorable Minister of Transport, Mr. Fikile Badula, the Deputy Minister of Transport, Les Ndichikunga. A very good afternoon to all of you and all the colleagues that may be with us here today. Honorable House Chair, the budget vote for transport takes place at a time when South Africa is slowly recovering from a number of disasters. The latest being the floods that mostly affected the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Our heartfelt condolences go to all the families who lost their loved ones during these dark hours. We also want to send our condolences to the families who have lost their loved ones during various accidents on our roads, skies, and everywhere where transport is involved. The committee takes note of damages caused by these disasters and appreciate measures taken by the department to repair the lost infrastructure through the implementation of the economic reconstruction and recovery plan. We want, however, to plead with the department to ensure that this program succeeds, as it is clear that without the full recovery of the infrastructure program, the department cannot bring about the inclusive economic growth and development premised on the transformation that is critical to overcome the triple challenge of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. The department has been doing well to fulfill its mandate, especially when it comes to civil aviation legislation, regulation, and entities under the department are guided on the basis of world-class standards of all modes of transport. This is also a case when it comes to the licensing of modes of transport to ensure effective economic regulation of the sector. The department has been allocated 69 billion rand for its budget for this year for the 7 programs which are critical to ensure that.
I'm sorry, Honorable Zwani. I'm sorry to disturb you, but I think you are not alone in that room, and the sounds are really disturbing. That are in that room. There is work happening and other things. Please, can the people in the room please give us that decorum of the House. Thank you. Proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. Programs which are critical to road, rail, maritime, and civil aviation. The department will have to transfer some of this budget to its entities, and it is critical that the department monitors the implementation of programs taken by those entities. This budget should bring relief to the poor state of our roads, especially provincial and local roads, as witnessed by the committee during its oversight visit to Mpumalanga, Northwestern and KwaZulu-Natal recently. Our rural roads have become something else, and the department needs to coordinate other spheres of government, as the minister said, to attend to this problem. The department has been unable to achieve all its target in the previous financial year and has been underspending in some cases. The department needs to fill critical vacancies to enable itself to build capacity to tackle the above mentioned challenges. The department can only be able to build better workforce through this process and ensure efficiency. It is also prudent for the department to ensure that boards are appointed on time to ensure direction for the entities. The same goes for the appointment of entity chief executive officers. Stability in this regard will take the department far. The committee continues to urge the department to get closer to entities like PRASA and those that are struggling, and lend a helping hand to ensure economic spin-offs for those who continue to use rail as a means to get to work. We are well aware of the efforts taken by the department, but in this case, more needs to be done. Before I see the face of the Honorable House Chairperson on the screen, let me conclude. The committee takes note that the budget allocated to the department may not be sufficient to resolve all the challenges faced by the department. But this budget, if used effectively and efficiently, it surely can take the department somewhere and benefit the people of South Africa. The ANC support this budget vote. I thank you, House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Zwane. You still have had some time to speak. We now proceed to the DA and invite the Honorable Halsinger.
Thank you, House Chair. Following his recent visit to the Ukraine, leader John Steenhuisen made one of the most surprising remarks. Despite the war and destruction, the electricity flow is maintained, roads are cleaned, trains are moving, and bridges are being repaired. The Ukrainian government is focusing on infrastructure preservation, with citizens supporting the country's survival and repair. In contrast, we in South Africa are fighting a war against ourselves, with several unrealized ideals, crime, corruption, vandalism, management incompetence, and lousy leadership. This transport budget report for 2022-23 is identical to previous editions, closely resembling the customary format of a copy and paste edition in which the word service delivery does not occur once. Two implementation components facilitate the national transport budget. The first is through the 12 entities under the Department of Transport, and the second is through the provinces. As a result, public transportation is a shared national provincial responsibility under Schedule 4A, whereas provinces are a separate Schedule 5A, a provincial responsibility. Municipalities and metros each have their ideas and processes, and all of them require collaboration, synergy, and coordination, which is where many things go drastically wrong. Unfortunately, the Department of Transport has been hesitant to accept the Democratic Alliance's long-held position that their present indicators are not connected with civic transportation experiences or the department. For example, in the last 10 years, 95% of passenger rail services have been eliminated. Nonetheless, PRASA reports that also have been met, and the department and minister commend this. Another issue that the DA has regularly raised is the employment of consultants rather than developing internal capacity and competency. This budget for 2022-23 is no exception, with a 73% increase in budget allocation for consultants, the largest of which is for public transportation. How can effective and efficient coordination be achieved through consultants? And how can improved coordination and budget functions be achieved through consultants based on customers? How could we ever effectively offer communities a choice and option of diverse modes and a variety in integrated mobility alternatives if 3/4 of the budget is set aside for consultants? After spending millions on consultants, we today have more company-owned vehicles and cars parked at PRASA offices than moving trains. Transnet owes PRASA more than 2 billion rand, owing to a recent parliamentary question. A bizarre occurrence in it owns all train assets, but allows this nonsensical cross-invoicing between the two entities. The sooner these two organizations get together, the better. Any desire to shift more freight goods to rail network to relieve road congestion would be viable only after the full merger of Transnet and PRASA. This is not a fresh endeavor, but rather an opportunity that has already passed you by, and this is why. The trucking business stepped up and absorbed the growth at a period when container activity in the Durban Harbour grew by more than 40%. Owners of 15,000 truck fleets with 5 or more trucks currently compete for more. In total, there are well over 300,000 trucks with a capacity of 3.5 tons or more. Nonetheless, despite this spectacular development, Transnet could only secure 12% share of container traffic. Minister Department are not guided by realistic facts and evidence. Instead of clear direction and focus, there will be more self-delusion with Toy Story war rooms and nothing will improve. It has little value in terms of sustaining jobs and economic prosperity when there are 11,435 bills of over 90 days outstanding to creditors amongst the 12 transport entities. This potential revenue has cost the combined transport service provider sector over 60 million rand. Shame on you. Debility is rampant, as seen by the 95% drop in rail passenger numbers between 2010 and currently. To put it in another way, this department's administration has left us with only 5% of the passenger rail activity we had 10 years ago. The majority of Metro Rail's 2,228 kilometers were operational until August 2019, when Minister Mbalula opted not to renew security contracts to protect our national rail assets. Because she now needs to pay much more to commute to work, a working mother said she has 40% less to spend in her household. You should be ashamed. 12.6 billion rand have been set aside for rail capital projects in this budget. How lovely it would have been to use this money to expand rail and enhance our signalling equipment. As an example, 5 kilometers of rail track might have connected the Kinshasa International Airport to the vast passenger rail network. I recently shared the substantial disparity between SANRAL and what SANRAL receives for road maintenance and what the 9 provinces combinedly receive. SANRAL, which manages about 10% of road kilometers compared to the combined 9 provinces, yet again benefits significantly from this budget, once again deceiving general road users. Apart from these and more budgetary disappointments, the returned R2 and NLTA bills provide absolute confirmation that the ANC cannot be trusted in making law or implementing it, let alone adding budget to civic advantage. And the sooner the DA gets in control of these functions, the better. Diabulela and Gekesha in Ndibelona, I thank you.
Stokos and furnish. We will now proceed, honorable members, and invite the EFF and recognize the Honorable Nolichungu.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the EFF rejects budget for 40 on transport. Minister Mbalula has overseen the most dramatic destruction of public transport infrastructure ever witnessed in times of peace anywhere in the world. In a country where 70% of its population depends on public transport for their economic, social, and general activities, a reliable, accessible, and affordable, and overall efficient public transport system should be a priority. During 2006 and 2007 financial year, the Department of Transport introduced the Integrated Public Transport Network Plan for the metropolitan municipality and certain selected cities. This grand plan was meant to introduce the bus rapid transit into our public transport system with state-of-the-art technology, formalization and transformation, as well as empowerment of the taxi industry through public transport infrastructure grant and the public transport operating grant. This project has fallen flat in most cities because of lack of backbone by the department and their inability to stand up to bullying from the taxi industry. The project has been a dismal failure in metros such as Mangaung, Nelson Mandela, Buffalo City, and the likes. Instead, the grant funding meant for those cities has been looted by the thieves, and no tangible deliveries can be demonstrated. The other metros who were showing signs of progress have now regressed. The department does not have the necessary skill set and capacity internally to perform its function of monitoring the performance of these struggling municipalities and intervene timelessly. The same goes on the failure of provinces and municipalities to maintain roads and infrastructure. The worst treasonous negligence by this department, however, has been the way they let the passenger rail system go. Rail passenger traffic in South Africa decreased over years, with only 237.3 million rail passenger journeys reported in 2018, as compared to the 616.9 million rail passengers journeys in 2009. This decline in rail passenger traffic is directly attributable to corruption, maladministration, mismanagement, appointing of incompetent individuals disguised as cadre deployment, and lack of funding in the country's passenger rail transport infrastructure. In big cities such as Cape Town and Johannesburg, which have for generations depended on funding on functioning passenger rail network, the neglect by this department has led to a complete destruction of rail infrastructure. Today, Minister Works is lyrical about the repair to rail infrastructure that costs billions of rands. But why did you allow such destruction in the first place? Was it that you can milk the state further through these contracts for refurbishing the rail network? What measures have you ensured that the destruction of rail infrastructure is stopped? We can tell you now for free that the investments recently made will be vandalized soon because we have not dealt with the real causes of this vandalism. Perhaps it is time we reintroduce rail police that the country once had in the 1970s, but this too will be corrupted by your party ministers. In the midst of all this destruction at PRASA, you have allowed a person with a well-established reputation for looting to destabilize PRASA even further by hiring and then firing a CEO without a valid basis whatsoever. Still, no valid reason why you appointed and then fired the CEO. The same is true for the infrastructure for transporting goods. Movement of goods is mainly by road, but due to the failure of rail, As a consequence, the roads are in a mess and full of potholes because they were not built for trucks that carry such heavy loads. Minister, we need a functioning rail network. We need to review and expand our public transport network across the country. We need to bring order back into the taxi industry and rid it of criminal elements who kill without ever being brought to justice. We need to rid the country of potholes. We need to ensure that as much beneficial cooperation between national and local government in as far as running of local transport networks are concerned. We must build internal capacity in order to prevent so much wastage on consultants. The department used over 250 million just for consultants in the previous financial year. This is an unnecessary waste of public funds. We must sort out the mess that is in the road accident fund and minimize wastage of money on lawyers to ensure that all the money goes to where it is supposed to go, to the victims of road accident. We reject this report. I thank you. This budget, sorry.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We now proceed and invite the IFP and call on the Honorable Sithole.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. This department has been tasked with ensuring that safety of every South African who makes sure of transport. This department management and the performance of its entities, as well as aware, directly impact the fragile economic growth of our economy. Unfortunately, this department is failing to deliver on its mandate. We can all attest to the poor current state of our roads, the poor maintenance and the lack of overall development. For example, the Moroto Road, also known as the Death Road, which stretched over 160 kilometers, span 3 provinces, Gauteng, Mpumalanga, and Limpopo. It has more than 1,000 vehicles traveling on it during peak hours. A feasibility study in 2006 and then again in 2014 cost the taxpayers approximately 17 million, merely to inform government that the road with the highest accident rate in Mpumalanga require drastic government action in order to save lives. Yet today, the road is still incomplete and no progress. If any, has been very slow, to say the least. However, it has been shown that upgrading this road could prevent the loss of thousands of lives each year, as well as improve economic development for the people, reduce access to community distancing, and provide greater access to work opportunities. It is quite clear that by not working within this on-time frames to upgrade this large stretch of road, this department and government is in fact having negligently, they are aware of the depth of this road, but have toiled with the allocation budget to this road, while making the people believe that changes is coming soon. Honorable Chairperson, while Moroto Road is one of the biggest concerns in relation to transport department obligation, there are other areas that are suffering during the poor maintenance. The potholes in Mpumalanga, Northwest, Free State, Gauteng, and KwaZulu-Natal create severe obstacles to the development of our economy, cause huge damage, and inflict injuries on road users. We also for ammonia sinkholes, which also pose a danger to the well-being of our road users, especially on the R71 from Free State to Okathamba. This tells us that this department is not only failing to people in Gauteng, Mpumalanga, and Limpopo through the Moroto Road, project, but also other important stretch of road in this country. The IFP call on this department to provide quarterly reports on the Moroto Road and corridor projects. Each quarter, the minister must appear before the department to account for the expenditure and progress. Civic society groups must also be invited to raise concern during each quarter regarding the progress in this regard. We support the committee's call for this department to provide a comprehensive nationally, provincially, and municipal account on all road maintenance and expenditure. They must also submit a 3-month forecasting at all road maintenance to be completed. In closing, Honorable Chairperson, this department must seek to rectify the issues with the payment to the tax industry as per the COVID-19 relief fund. The lack of attention paid to resolving this issue will have severe consequences on commuters using public transport. In the form of increasing cost, government is pledged to use the impact on South Africans through making fund available to ease the burden of rising transportation costs, and so too, it needs to be paid attention to the tax industry. Honorable Chairperson, Minister, accounting officers, MEC from different provinces should actually arrested for their failing their constitutional mandate. The IFP do reject this budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We now proceed to the FF Plus and invite the Honorable May.
Thank you. Een van die belangrikste komponente van 'n gesonde en groeiende ekonomie is 'n goeie vervoerstelsel. Die grootte van die begroting van vervoer is 'n weerspieëling van hoe belangrik vervoer is vir die regering van die dag. Die afgelope jare het die openbare vervoerstelsel byna tot stilstand gekom, terwyl die begroting ook nie voldoende was nie. Ons kan vandag in Suid-Afrika sê dat die enigste openbare vervoer die van taksies is wat ongeveer 16 miljoen mense per dag vervoer. Sonder 'n volhoubare, betroubare en veilige vervoerstelsel kan geen land suksesvol wees nie. Op die mediumtermyn beplan die departement van vervoer om onderhoud op nasionale sowel as provinsiale paaie volhoubaar te maak en spoorvervoer te verbeter. Dit is verblywend om te sien dat waar SANRAL betrokke is, die paaie werklik in 'n goeie toestand is en gereeld opgradeer en onderhou word. Dit terwyl die provinsiale paaie in 'n baie swak toestand is en 'n groot gevaar vir motoriste inhou. In sekere gevalle word die begroting wat aan die provinsies gegee word, nie eers gebruik vir die onderhoud of vir die onderhoud van paaie nie, maar vir ander doeleindes is aangewend. Ek wil vandag vir u sê dat die beste ding wat ooit kan gebeur sal wees die dag as SANRAL alle paaie in Suid-Afrika oorneem, want die provinsies is eenvoudig net nie daartoe in staat om die paaie voldoende te beheer nie. In Suid-Afrika het ons onder die ou regering een van die beste treinstelsels gehad en ek het die afgelope tyd gewonder, nou waarom was hy so suksesvol? Nou, daar is 'n paar dinge wat vir my belangrik is en ek het al verskeie kere in die portefeulje komitee gesê, bring terug die Suid-Afrikaanse spoorwegpolisie. Want wat het gebeur in die ou bedeling? Die spoorwegpolisie beskik oor dissipline en hulle die veiligheid van passasiers gewaarborg. Die reiskoste was baie laag en het vir die kliënte tot die grootste, van die kleinste tot die grootste dorpe en stede bedien. Treine was tydgebonde en altyd betroubaar. Ek wil sê, soos ek nou eendag gelees het van Kusatu wat sê die weermag moet ingespan word om die diefstal van die elektrische kabels te verhoed. Ek dink dit is 'n baie goeie idee. Die ANC-regering probeer om alles self te doen. Dit is nie moontlik nie, hulle beskik nie oor die finansies nie. En daarom is dit verblydend om te verneem dat die regering ook nou gebruik gemaak van die private sektor. Ek wil vandag vir u sê dat die ekonomie kan in Suid-Afrika groei, Maar sonder hierdie ordentlike vervoerstelsel is dit eenvoudig net nie moontlik nie. As ons byvoorbeeld kyk na landbou. Landbou is ook een van die grootste werkskeppers in Suid-Afrika. Maar wat doen baie boere? Hulle moet self hulle eie paaie in stand hou. Hulle spandeer honderde duisende rande op die herstel van voertuie. En daai geld kon eerder aangewend geword het vir uitbreidings en so op 'n ander manier weer nuwe werksgeleenthede te skep. Die oorsigbesoek aan Noordwes, Mpumalanga en KwaZulu-Natal was om die een woord te gebruik skokkend. Ek wil vir u sê, dit is duidelik dat op grondvlak absoluut niks gebeur nie. In 'n plek soos Rustenburg is daar 21 verkeersvoertuie, slegs 3 is in gebruik. Die ander 18 ons dit self gaan besoek, staan geparkeer. Waarom? Omdat daar nie onderdele beskikbaar is nie, omdat die onderdele daar nooit vir onderdele betaal word nie. Ons moet onthou dat hoe verder dinge versleg, hoe minder gaan ons die paaie verbeter. En ek dink dit is tyd nou dat die regering werklik ingryp en ook kyk na die mense op grondvlak, want ek voel baie keer hulle saboteer die regering. In Suid-Afrika praat ons baie oor mense wat sterf in ongelukke, maar ek dink soos die vorige spreker genoem het van die Kata, moet ons kyk na die Molotto-pad in Mpumalanga. Die afgelope 13 jaar was daar meer dan 10.000 sterftes op daai pad. Op pad na Mpumalanga toe het ons op 'n ongelukstoneel afgekom waar 2 persone sopas gesterf het. Die gemeenskap het ons ook ingelig dat die vorige lede van die parlement 'n belofte gemaak het dat hulle treinstelsel sou instel vanaf daai gebied tot in Pretoria. Dit het nie gebeur nie. En dan is die pad wat die SANRAL doen, is wel in 'n proses, maar ek dink dit kan ook vinniger geskied. Ek wil net noem, die siening van die komitee van vervoer is, dat senior poste vinniger gevul moet word. Begroting vergroot moet word, om totale verval te styp. Oorsigbesoeke moet meer plaasvind. Slaggate moet vinniger herstel word en die vervoer van pad na spoor moet absoluut as dringend beskou word.
Baie dankie.
Dankie.
Thank you. We now invite the ACDP and recognize the Honorable Mishwe.
Thank you, House Chairperson. I firstly want to convey on behalf of the ACDP our sincere condolences to families who have lost their loved ones in accidents that were caused by the poor state of our roads, particularly potholes. We also wish a speedy recovery to all those who are still recovering from those accidents. A major feature of what was reported as an attempted insurrection that threatened to topple our democracy last July was the closure of the N3. This was an act of economic sabotage and a threat to the food security of our nation. It caused a national crisis which damaged our economy and severely dented our international image. The ACDP welcomes the sentencing of 20 years behind bars of a taxi industry worker for his involvement in the burning down of a train carriage last month. According to the prosecutor, and I quote, "The impact these incidents have on the poor in our communities is where the real tragedy lay. Trains are the cheapest form of transport. When they are out of service, commuters are forced to use taxis, which are more expensive and unaffordable for many workers. Many workers, Honorable Minister, need efficient and affordable transport system that is essential to the lives of all South Africans. When public roads are full of potholes, residents are hesitant or even afraid to drive at night, particularly when it rains. When trains stop running, workers, including street vendors who depend on a cheaper mode of transport, which is trains, go to the markets and spend most of what they make as a living. When there is no safe or efficient public public transport, emergencies become life-threatening and family time after work becomes a luxury. The ACDP has some serious concerns about the department's spending patterns from the budget of 69.1 billion rands. The financing of consultants is set to increase by 73.3% this year. This is outrageous. An amount of 3.5 million was spent on consultants last year, and this year a budget of 13.1 million has been allocated. We believe this is wasting money that should be helping people and that should be making sure that our roads are right for safe traveling. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Honorable members, as I call on the Deputy Minister of Transport, Honorable Chikunga, I will now invite the Honorable Acting Chair Lesoma to preside over this budget vote. The Deputy Minister.
Honorable House Chairperson, Minister of Transport, Honorable Vitual Balula, MSCs of Transport, Honorable Members of Parliament, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. Chairperson.
Honorable Deputy Minister, unfortunately we can only see the wall, and we would appreciate that we only see you yourself rather than the whole audience that is in there. Please, can they allow your camera to go to you? It's not yet, please. If you can zoom into the Deputy Minister, please. Oh. I don't know what to say now. Honorable Deputy Minister.
We must fix the roads first.
Honorable Metlua, you are out of order. Please don't do that. Don't do that. I don't know what is happening, Honorable Deputy Minister. I think we are taking more time. Yes, that's much better. Oh my God, they changed it again. Proceed, Honorable Deputy Minister. If they can only be quiet, although it's very disturbing, I don't know, I can't stop you from proceeding now. It has everybody on the picture, and that's not what we would want to see. We want to see the Deputy Minister speaking. Please. It was right, they changed it again. Proceed, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. There is no killer revelation of a nation's soul than the way it embraces change, endures devastating adversity, and amidst all, choose a purpose, path of unity and good. As South Africans, we are a diverse, inclusive, and resilient nation. We are a country adorned with a fierce, resolute tenacity. The people who are not afraid to rise, clear the path, rebuild, adapt.
I'm sorry to disturb you again, Honorable Deputy Minister. I see a hand of the Honorable Papo. Honorable Papo, your hand is up. Should we proceed?
You have addressed the issue because I was worried with the head on the screen next to the minister. It's distracting us, and that's fine.
It's still happening. The cameras are still not actually projecting the minister as it's supposed to be, and really this frustrates us. But we have to proceed. Now we only see the wall. I can see that. Minister, I think you have to proceed because we can hear you, but now we can only see the wall. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. People who are not afraid to rise, clear the path, rebuild, adapt, and save. And as the transport sector, we are the heartbeat of economic growth and social development. We play a critical role in the economic recovery and reconstruction plan. In this regard, for this financial year, we have prioritized skills development and training in order to organically build capabilities and capacity of the transport sector. We have also continued to recruit young talent, especially women and persons with disabilities, either as interns or as new entrants or even senior executives. The total budget for training and skills development for the year 2022-23 is 26.8 million rands, of which 15.4 million rands, which is 57%, is for our university bursary program, from where we are funding 330 students per year who are studying various transport qualifications at 13 South African tertiary institutions. Some have graduated, others are graduating even this year. I must appreciate the immense commitment by our SOEs, state-owned entities, who have recognized the importance of skills development and training as critical to the greater agenda of transforming and capacitating the sector. We also appeal to the private sector to partner and or collaborate with the department to ensure that our young people find employment and improve skills capacity of the sector. We applaud Coca-Cola Beverage South Africa, CCBSA, for collaborating with the department to drive skills development in transport, freight, and logistics by ensuring placement of our students to gain practical work experience. This partnership will see 10 students commencing their internship at CCBSA in June this year. More work will be done to create opportunities for participation by young people in the same Coca-Cola Beverage South Africa learnership program that accommodates 700 learners. It is important to highlight that throughout the transport sector, we have ensured the implementation of a gender-responsive budgeting approach. Such a commitment will ensure that we fight the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide. Honorable members, at the transport sector, we were hard hit by COVID-19 and we lost quite a number of our capable employees. I must commend our national and provincial departments, as well as our SOEs, employee health and wellness units, for heightening and strengthening preventative measures and providing tremendous psychosocial support to infected and affected employees and their families. We extend our heartfelt condolences to all the families of the fallen employees across the transport sector. Chairperson, we committed ourselves to appoint the required skills, experience, and expertise, especially at senior and executive levels, whilst ensuring that we continue to apply a gender disability and sensitive strategy on human capital development. To this end, we are proud to inform the House that we now have 5 capable women CEOs in our 12 state-owned entities. These women run the ATNS, AXA, SACA, Ports Regulator, and the Rail Safety Regulator. We must commend our minister and boards for responding so positively to the call to transform our sector. As a matter of fact, we also have one DDG, woman DDG, in the transport department for the first time. We have also appointed the Chief Executive Officer of the CPRTA. We are in the process of board appointments where board tenure are about to expire or have vacancies. We have also appointed both the Air Services Licensing Council and the International Air Services Council. These appointments will clear the backlog of all the pending and amendment applications that have been lodged by the airlines. Honorable members, in relation to the implementation of public transport universal design and access, which seeks to improve the mobility needs of persons with disabilities, all public and private transport operators will be required to conduct audits of existing infrastructure, fleet composition, and operations against legislated minimum norms and standards. House Chairperson, the financial year we have This financial year, we have proposed a number of policy and legislative amendments in an effort to seek efficiencies and cost effectiveness in the running of our state-owned entities. With a modest budget of 42 million rand for the 22-23 financial year, the Ports Regulator of South Africa will continue to implement the multi-year tariff methodology and tariff strategy to ensure that the pricing of both the port infrastructure and the services and facilities provided in the 8 commercial ports owned by the National Ports Authority, NPA, are cost reflective and where applicable, adjusted for inflation. The 2022-23 is not only the last financial year for which the current tariff methodology is applicable. It is also the first year that the regulator will be setting tariffs for a corporatized NPA in line with Section 3.2 of the National Ports Act 12 of 2005. With corporatization affecting the treatment of the various elements within the tariff methodology, the Ports Regulator will be reviewing the tariff methodology and its applicability for 2023-2024. This is to ensure the financial and operational sustainability of the NPA as corporate entity under Transnet Group, with a focus on the valuation of the assets, taxation, and elements reflected on the credit metrics of the NPA. The Ports Regulator approved an average inflation-linked 4.5% tariff adjustment with the discounts and incentives. These discounts include a 60% rebate on vessels taking on bunkers, 30% on license fees for license holders, and lastly, 30% discount for South Africa flagged vessels on marine charges. Honorable members, on rail safety, it is critical that we inform the House that in this financial year, the RSR will commence with the development and implementation of a digitized and integrated information management system to meet the requirements set out in the RSR Act. The IMS will deliver data integrity to support operational intelligence in assuming the effectiveness of the RSR's compliance activities. The RSR concluded 2 research reports on level crossings and personal safety on trains. These research papers will create a body of knowledge on actions and strategies that are necessary to improve safety levels in the reached areas as well as level crossings. In this financial year, the Rail Safety Regulator has been allocated a total budget of 278 million rands. Honorable House Chair, the Minister of Transport, Honorable Fikile Mbalula, announced on the 1st of July 2021 that the ARTO rollout will be implemented in 4 phases. Most of the activities in the implementation project schedule are close to completion. However, some of the outstanding activities have been put on hold pending the decision on the appeal at the Constitutional Court. For the current financial year, RTIA will embark on ARTO legislative training and awareness in all 44 districts with a view to increase readiness and show access, particularly in rural areas, for the anticipated national rollout. They will further establish 37 ARTO service outlets and procure ARTO mobile offices in all 9 provinces, creating 98 job opportunities. The RTIA has been allocated a total budget of 486 million rand for the current financial year. Honorable members, the civil aviation remains one of the sectors worst hit by the COVID pandemic, since the hardest lockdown restrictions of just over 2 years ago meant to curb the spread of the virus and to save lives. The International Air Transport Association, IATA, indicated that the impact of COVID-19 in 2020 resulted in 64% of the global fleet grounded. Airport revenue around the world dropped by 54.6%. However, IATA has forecasted a potential overall improvement on traveler numbers to reach 4 billion in 2024, which exceeds pre-COVID-19 levels. IATA further estimates that passenger numbers to, from, and within Africa will recover more gradually than in other regions, reaching 76% of 2019 levels in 2022, surpassing pre-crisis levels in 2025. And our aviation state-owned companies are readying themselves for this recovery. To this end, the National Civil Aviation Policy Review process continues as it seeks to change the policy trajectory towards the promotion of national interests and domestic growth of the aviation sector and a realignment of the sector's growth to the NDP 2030. Honorable Chairperson, on civil aviation, South Africa will be audited on aviation security compliance by the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO. We were last audited in 2011 and achieved 81.3%. We hope to improve our performance in upcoming ICAO aviation security audit in August this year, and the South African Civil Aviation Authority will be representing South Africa. The SACA launched a smart card license for aviation professionals, which replaced the booklet that had been used to identify personnel licenses. The launch took place in 2021, making South Africa one of only a few countries in the world to use a smart card where license holders and operators can access the data of aviation personnel in real time from anywhere in the world and at any time. Whilst as a country, we are doing very well in commercial aviation, we are concerned about the increase in the number of accidents in the general aviation. To cap this, stringent measures have been communicated to all aviation stakeholders. However, the country has reduced the number of fatal accidents by 25%. This is an achievement towards meeting the minister's target of reducing aircraft accidents and fatalities by 50% in the current strategy cycle. In 2022-23, SACA will implement a 140 million rand automation project with a view to migrate into a complete paperless system to address the stakeholder needs of efficiency, agility, and client centricity. For the financial year 2022-2023, SACA has been allocated a total budget of 771 million rand. Chairperson, as part of the recovery and reconstruction efforts in the current financial year, AXA's focal area will be on strengthening its cargo and logistics services with the main aim to diversify its revenue generation through supporting development of aerotropolis. While AXA is cognizant of the impact that COVID-19 had on the aviation and air travel industry, it will not extend any concessions on aeronautical fees, as this is guided by the Airport Economic Regulation and form the cornerstone of airport revenue. It is worth noting that an extensive business support in the form of reprieves on the non-aeronautical revenue side was extended at the peak of the pandemic. House Chairperson, since 2019, Air Traffic Navigation Services, ATNS, commenced the implementation of its safety strategy. Notably, improvement has been recorded in its SMS standard and excellence rating. Due to the improvement in its safety ratio and serious incident rate, the SMS maturity improved from level A to level C. In the regional context, ATNS continues to manage the satellite voice and data communication network covering 27 African countries. The introduction of these network communication systems have gone a long way in improving aviation safety over African skies. Honorable members, based on our known strengths as an important contributor in the civil aviation development and governance, South Africa will bid for re-election in the ICAO Council at the 41st ICAO Elective Assembly, scheduled to take place in Montreal, Canada, from the 27th of September to 7th October this year. As I conclude, I wish to thank the Honorable Minister Mbalula for providing strategic leadership and support to all of us. I also want to thank the MECs of transport in provinces, thank the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee on Transport for holding us accountable as per their constitutional mandate. I also extend my appreciation to the acting DG and the staff of the Department of Transport, as well as to the chairs and CEOs of our state-owned companies for their commitment and hard work. To all our stakeholders in the transport sector, we say now is the time to actualize tangible strategic partnerships for the development of our country, South Africa in general, and our transport sector in particular. To our people, we say all hands are on deck to fast-track service delivery and actualize the Khawuleza ethos. Let's be patriotic, love, and protect our country. God bless South Africa and its people. Honorable Homsinger, tell us about you told us about Honorable John Hosen, who traveled to Ukraine. I wish was able to drive to Stellenbosch University to meet a Black student whose belongings were urinated upon by a white student. That will be very cheap for him to undertake. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable members, for noting ANC, Honorable Zwane left 6 minutes. They will share among themselves the following speakers of the organization of the ANC. Having said that, we shall proceed to Honorable Heron from Good. Honorable Heron, over to you.
Thank you, House Chairperson. House Chairperson, those with good memories will recall the build-up to the 2010 World Cup and our resolution to use the event as a springboard to develop an effective public transport system. We promulgated the National Land Transport Act, which represented an important policy shift. And according to the Minister, the Act was intended to consolidate land transport functions and locate them in the appropriate spheres of government, being the local sphere. As the football extravaganza drew near, we saw new bus and rail networks were developed in some cities, and for the first time it appeared that the taxi industry was being afforded a rightful seat at the table of decision makers. But 13 years later, the new legislation has failed to achieve its goals because it has never been fully embraced by the revolving doors of management at the Department of Transport. And most of the 7 ministers who've occupied that office since 2009 haven't hung around long enough to fully comprehend or implement it. Instead of using the Act to fix the system, what we've witnessed over the past dozen years has been the total collapse of scheduled mass rapid public transport across the country. What has happened to our transport plans? The ones about a hierarchy of modes with commuter rail identified to provide the backbone of local public transport, supported by a bus rapid transit, with efficient, seamless and affordable connections integrated with other scheduled bus services and the minibus taxi industry. What we have instead is a collapsed commuter rail system and a declining BRT system. In the absence of regular and reliable rail, the idea of mass rapid connectors and development of meaningful BRT networks cannot work. We have an inverted hierarchy of modal choice, with minibus taxis providing the backbone of public transport, and the state-backed modalities are on the brink of collapse. The Department of Transport should be ashamed to report the dramatic decline of rail and bus users between 2013 and 2020 in its annual performance plan. If it wasn't for taxis, the bitter truth is there'd be virtually no public transport system left, and ideas of growing the economy would have to be put on hold. Devolving public transport networks and the functions to local government is not just the law in South Africa, it is also a key recommendation of the Integrated Urban Development Framework. We must rescue the commuter rail system by securing the rail reserves through built environment interventions, fast-track the rail modernization program, and devolve the rail networks to cities along with the rail operating subsidies. We must permit cities to contract with Metro Rail and other private operators, devolve scheduled bus contracting functions along with their subsidies to cities with BRTs so that the two systems can be integrated. And we must fast-track the rollout of BRT where it is still viable. And we must develop a new approach to the minibus taxi operating licensing regime that acknowledges the taxi's functional role in our economy. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Now I recognize Honorable Kumalo of the ANC. Honorable Kumalo, you've got 13 minutes. Additional with 3. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Angibingelele sihlalo umphathiswa weminyango wezokuthutha, ngibingelele usekela mphathiswa amalungu e-Portfolio Committee eholwa usihlalo Honorable Zwane, honorable members. House Chair, ANC supports the budget number 40 of Department of Transport. The budget vote of the Department of Transport is taking place at a critical time for the country as the sector was negatively affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and it was further affected by the devastating floods that affected parts of KwaZulu-Natal and Eastern Cape. The floods had a major impact on rail, road and port infrastructure. The impact on the road and rail infrastructure also impacts on the major inland inland market, which is dependent on the transport infrastructure of KwaZulu-Natal for the movement of goods, freight, and people. While there's been much work done for the restoration of transport infrastructure, more work needs to be done to ensure that transport infrastructure can operate normally and be further developed. This means that this budget vote requires to be optimized in terms of the funds and make every rand spent count in terms of outcomes on the ground. The flood damage to the road and rail system does require urgent attention, as the infrastructure requires to be restored in KwaZulu-Natal and parts of Eastern Cape. The rail network between KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng must be restored to ensure that the major inland market has access the coast for receiving goods and export.
Honorable Kumalo, one minute, Honorable Kumalo. I'm sorry to do that. Can you just switch on your video? It's one of the rules, unless you would have requested before you start your speech. Nevertheless, you may proceed while you are sorting out yourself in terms of the video. You may proceed, Honorable Member.
I have tried, Chair, it doesn't allow.
Okay, proceed.
It is important to understand that the transport sector is critical to the functioning of the economy, and all 7 programs of the department are critical in that regard, which is the focus of this budget vote. Infrastructure development in the transport sector forms a critical part of ensuring the success of the economic reconstruction and recovery plan. The implementation of the economic reconstruction and recovery plan is dependent for its success on the development and an efficient and integrated transport system nationally. This will enable the transport sector infrastructure to generate funding for development of transport infrastructure projects externally to this budget vote. Transport infrastructure, House Chair, development is capital intensive. Therefore, the department as part of rail and road program should focus on which projects requires external funding for its development. Road transport is a major mode of transport for the movement of people, goods, and freight. The road transport program has a budget for this financial year, and it is 34 billion. Chairperson, sifanele sikusho ukuthi noma yehlile budget uma uyiqhathanisa neyonyaka odlule, sifanele sikhuthaze sigcizelele ukuthi umnyango ukuyisebenzisa le budget kufanele kusenze isiqiniseko sokuthi wenza ngawo wonke amandla ukuthi wenze okuqondene nomsebenzi webudget ukuze yenze umsebenzi ebihlelelwe wona. House Chair, South African National Road Agency has budgeted some 22 billion for both toll road and non-toll roads. It is very positive to note that this budget vote has allocated funding for the Muloto Road Corridor. This road corridor must be refurbished as a matter of urgency. It has historically recorded a large number of road accidents resulting in many fatalities. The community in that area has been calling for government to do something about the condition of the road in Muloto Road Corridor for a while, and their call has been heard as this budget vote clearly demonstrates the ANC government commitment to the call of this community. It is also very positive to note that while Coast N2 Road has been budgeted for, and it is a critical road between the 2 provinces, Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. These roads are non-toll roads, which will assist most motorists and enable movement between the 2 provinces. Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project has been granted a budget for 4.4 billion in the 2021-22 budget, and has been granted a further 664.4 million this financial year to stabilize the finances in this important project, which relieve traffic between Johannesburg and Pretoria. House Chair, road maintenance is critical in many parts of the country, and this is not only about national roads, but also provincial and local roads. This budget vote has allocated 11.9 billion to road maintenance. Ithi-ke leyo nto sihlalo siyakubonga nje ukuthi ingagcini ngokuthi ibuke national roads, but isuke ku-national iye kuma-provinces iziyofika nakuma-local roads ngoba njengoba siyazi imigaqo yethu ekuhlaleni ukuthi ayimihle kangakanani. Siyabonga nje ukuthi izobheka ukuze abantu bakithi bakwazi ukubona ushintsho ngoba balindele abantu bakithi ushintsho ekutheni imigwaqo ibe sesimeni esikahle. It is far cheaper from a budget perspective to maintain roads than refurbish the roads, House Chair. As part of the recommendation of the report on this budget vote on transport, the committee seeks progress reports on the Provincial Roads Maintenance Grant, Rural Road Asset Management System Grant, Municipal Infrastructure Grant, Expanded Public Works Program, Integrated Grant for Municipalities, and Public Transport Network Grant. The Road Traffic Management Corporation has been budgeted for 224 million. Road safety is a critical element of the legislation and regulation which is developed by the ANC government, and this occurs through road traffic management and safety programs. Historically, there have been far too many fatalities on the roads in the country, and while this may have reduced due to COVID travel restrictions, these fatalities come at a great cost to the people and economy of the country. Government has correctly adopted the policy of the movement of goods and perishable freight from road to rail. This policy is important to ensure that there are less heavy duty trucks on the road, which in turn will act to preserve our roads network and reduce maintenance costs. Due to the volume of goods and freight being transported by road, the entry between Gauteng and Durban has to be refurbished every 3 years instead of every 7 years as was originally planned. There must be functioning weight bridge which enforce weight regulations for heavy duty vehicles given the impact of this vehicle on the conditions of the road. Rail is the most efficient form of transport, and the country has an integral rail network for the movement of freight and passengers. Rail is also cheapest form of transport, which increases transport cost savings for working class and the poor commuters. House Chair, over a number of years, there have been a number of lines which have not been functional due to criminal destruction of the network. Work has commenced on the Central Line in Cape Town and the Mabopane line and still need to be completed. This must be supported as it creates a better life for all. The Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa has allocated a transfer from this budget.
Honourable members, start wrapping up.
Thank you, Chair. There is a new board that is recently been appointed, and the committee really appreciates that. In conclusion, Chair, I think it cannot be business as usual, as there are many challenges which rail and roads transport in this country that needs to be resolved. Therefore, the department must ensure that in this budget they have to utilize it as it has been set up. Thank you, Chairperson. The ANC supports the budget.
Thank you, Mam Tungwa. Honorable members, we shall proceed. Now I recognize Honorable from Jama, Honorable Hendricks. Honorable Hendricks, are you here?
Yes, Honorable House Chair, Honorable House Chair. The Minister of Transport must become an unstoppable force so that our railway network is a mega railway network that is a symbol of the country's economic power and he can do it. Minister Dalil says she has the appetite to work on full employment for the poor. So Minister Al-Jamaa says you can do it. You have the appetite. South Africa's 14-kilometer railway line between central Joburg and the business hub Nasrec was described in 2010 as one of the world's best railway networks. Constructed at a cost of 70 million and ferried 20,000 passengers during peak hour. Sadly, this has become dysfunctional. We heard the honourable member talk about the central line in Cape Town that is still work in progress. That is unacceptable. The minister, you promised that we will have it up and running before last Christmas so that the sailors coming to Simonstown, if there is a war, then they can reach the base quicker. Now they've got to use all kinds of transport. So we've already lost the war before it started. I went to visit the railway line between PE to Johannesburg, and most of the Khoi and the San live at most of these stations. All these stations along the route are dysfunctional. So, Minister, the country is waiting for you to become that unstoppable force. Thank you very much, Honourable House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Hendricks. Thank you so much. Now we shall proceed. I recognize Honourable Sitlolo of the DA. Honourable Sitlolo, over to you.
Honourable Chairperson, thank you very much. Today we debate the National Department of Transport's budget, a budget that Honourable Chris Hunsinger pointed out as being one where service delivery does not feature, and the ANC speakers, including the Minister, attested to that. While this budget is a same old budget, the service delivery outcomes thereof are not aligned with the experiences that millions of South Africans have on our roads. Honourable Chris Hunsinger's speech highlighted the two components that facilitate transport budget functions to the people, one of which includes the implementation of transport functions, which happens through provinces. Unfortunately, Honourable Chair, for the Northwest Province, the complete collapse of provincial and municipal road infrastructure is the reason why this budget is nothing but a ghost budget. The province has been mismanaged by the failed ANC for the past 28 years. The infrastructure collapse in the form of roads in the Northwest proves that there is no coordination between national and provincial spheres of government, and that which this National Department of Transport seeks to achieve will remain a pipe dream for as long as the ANC is in government. In a reply to a written question on the allocation of the provincial road maintenance grant to the Northwest Province from 2011 to the year 2020, the department noted that the Northwest had received well over 7 billion rands, with almost 2 billion of the total amount sent back to the National Treasury as unspent. The culture of unspent funds by the Northwest Province is well documented. A News 24 article published on the 3rd of April 2020 noted that the Northwest, which has one of the worst service delivery records in the country, was on the verge of giving back 17 billion of a total combined budget of 56.4 billion to the National Treasury because its department had failed to spend the money. Note also, Honourable Chairperson, that this is a province whose departments have been under Section 100 intervention for the past 3 years, including its Public Works and Roads Department. Chairperson, the failure to spend money on service delivery, specifically the building, upgrading and maintenance of both provincial and municipal roads, has had dire consequences and results for the people of the Northwest. Residents in several rural communities in the Northwest have horror stories to tell. Dunga Tsilo, a resident in Mudimung village in Greater Taung, explains how back in 2006, the late Premier Edna Molewa introduced the building of Road D210. To date, that road linking Chokonyane and Mudimung villages is still a ghost, making the almost 12-kilometer travel between the two villages difficult for emergency medical services and public transport, specifically when there are heavy rains. In the villages of Kapeng, Muteding, Mokasa, and Matapaneng, Road D201, which was promised to be upgraded from gravel to tar back in 2011, was re-gravelled to the tune of 18 million rands, only to leave residents unable to access public transport, schools, and tuck shops due to the condition of the road after torrential rains a month after the said re-gravelling. The residents of Mateng, Ukumeng, Molelema, and connecting villages were excited to have the D206 road as well as the D208 road upgraded from gravel to tar. The 10-kilometer road would have created easy access to more than 5 villages in the Bahamaidi area. Unfortunately, after 2 years of having the site abandoned by the contractor after 56% of the work was completed, with well over 40 million rand spent, the residents of Molelema have now resorted to fixing their own road, as it has now been completely destroyed by rains, while the department and the contractor remain blocked in a battle royale in court. Chairperson Peter Ernest, a broiler farmer for Supreme Chicken in Loderungsstad, is in danger of losing his contract due to the terrible state of the road. Every 40 days, his farm produces more than 500,000 chickens. About 55 trucks are used to transport the chicken and deliver 1,500 tons of feed. These trucks use road D1248, a provincial road, to access the farm. 39 households will be affected should this termination take place. On Workers' Day, members of the Municipal Methodist Church of Southern Africa in Mahikeng were forced to fill potholes found in the street near the church. Community members, business forums, and taxi associations across the Northwest Province have had to dig deep into their own pockets to fix access roads. All this, Honorable Chairperson, due to the failure of the ANC to govern. On the 7th of May, public figure Lebo Molex posted a video on his Facebook page about the current state of the N12 road in the city of Matlosana. He jokingly said, as I paraphrase, Chair, that people are no longer in need to go to Kimberley in order to see the big hole. The holes on the N12 were enough to become a tourist attraction. This is deeply saddening, Honorable Chairperson. Chair, while I may have singled out the Northwest here today, the reality is that provinces such as the Northern Cape, Free State, and others know exactly what I'm talking about in as far as the conditions of their provincial and municipal road network is concerned. Chairperson, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Members, you are encouraged and will continue encouraging you to use a black background and a parliamentary background. It will be highly appreciated because you are deemed to be in the House. So it will then give a life in terms of the decorum of the House, as it were. Thank you very much, Honorable Member Sitlolo. Now we shall proceed, Honorable Members, to Honorable MacDonald of the ANC. Honorable MacDonald, you have 6 minutes left because Honorable Kumalo also left 3 minutes. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. This is a critical budget vote for the transport sector. There's much work to be done on the infrastructure of rail, road and ports. The department has been allocated funds in these programs dealing with rail and roads. It's common cause that South Africa has developed a developed transport system in terms of civil aviation, road, rail and ports. This transport system extends over a relatively vast geography. The geography as the crow flies from Cape Town to the south of Polokwane in the north is equivalent to the distance from London to Istanbul. It's 102% times bigger than the Ukraine. And in Europe, one will pass through many countries. The transport system in the country is functional as millions of people utilize it daily. However, there are a number of challenges which confront the transport sector, and these needs to be dealt with. The rationale and the approach of the ANC to dealing with these challenges is different to that of the opposition. If one wants to listen to the opposition and believe their narrative, it would sound like there is a complete breakdown of the transport system, which is false, as millions of commuters utilize the transport system on a daily basis. In this regard, the opposition speaks as though they prefer to live in another country, in another planet, or in South Africa of yesteryear. The approach of the ANC is that the people want better services, faster and greater level of efficiency of government. They wish that the ANC government, which is a better life for all. They want transformation in the transport sector. For the ANC, this means that the transport system in the country must be preserved, protected, and developed in all modes of transport, is a key driver of economic development and growth. The ANC opposes the destruction of the transport infrastructure of the country, especially rail. It seeks growth of the sector, and that is at the heart of the matter. This begs the question of what are challenges in the transport sector which the department needs to attend to in the current financial year and the next financial year. The transport sector is a key catalyst to the efficiency functioning of the economy and must directly contribute to its growth and development. Therefore, the state of the current transport system is not conducive to economic growth and the development. It's not efficient, integrated, and the infrastructure requires much investment due to poor maintenance. The state of the municipal and provincial roads is a source of frustration for the people of South Africa. Far too many people are losing their lives on the road, and some because of conditions of the roads in provinces and municipalities. The rail network has been seriously damaged in many parts of the country, mostly due to the inability to secure the infrastructure. It is heartening that the very positive that the SAPS have made a number of arrests of people and syndicates which have made a criminal career of destroying the rail infrastructure of the country through theft of cable and tracks. PRASA has been allocated some 19 billion rand as a transfer from the national department, and the committee is expecting results in the form of improved rail services. The Department of Transport and PRASA must ensure that the rail network is protected, restored, and fully operational for the transport of goods, freight, and people. Municipal and provincial roads require to be maintained, as this is much cheaper than neglecting maintenance and having to resurface roads regularly. The National Department of Transport must work hand in hand with provinces and the provincial government and local government to ensure that road maintenance occurs. The silos which exist between different levels of government in the transport do not facilitate delivery and therefore requires closer coordination. Allocated budgets in different spheres of government must be optimized to achieve delivery. Yes, Honorable Hansinger, service delivery. This is what the ANC government is planning on doing. Furthermore, the different spheres of government and transport sector must be held accountable for the funds which are made available for maintenance and the development of public transport. Most people in South Africa don't care about who is responsible for what road, just that the potholes be fixed or not. Apartheid spatial planning placed the majority of black working class and the poor away from the places of work, and therefore these communities are reliant on public transport. In the best of circumstances, most of these people require to use more than one mode of transport, such as the rail and road. This historical injustice of apartheid negatively impacts on these communities as they spend much time traveling to earn a living, and also impacts on their family life. This program is funded by government through the National Department and provinces. Therefore, it's imperative that the Department of Transport ensures that the development of the transport system occurs to serve such communities which are dependent on public transport for their livelihoods. This means that the rail and road transport required to fix and fully operational to serve our people transport needs are the cheapest and possible at the cheapest cost. The rapid bus transport system requires efficiency function where it's operational and extended to the areas where there's similar transport needs. Public transport is efficiently organized and integrated, can play an important role to reducing carbon emissions through reducing car fleet on the roads. For implementation of the single ticket transport system, this travel for all approaches is critical. This is also the effect of preserving the road infrastructure in the country. The entity presented to the community as part of the budget vote process and is critical to that is the entity, it's focused on the budget vote, is funded through the special levy as per the Road Accident Fund Act. The Road Accident Fund plays an important role as a social benefit scheme for the victims of road accidents. In the past year, the Road Accident Fund has paid out 34.2 billion, of which 20.87 billion was paid out towards loss of earnings as a result of vehicle accidents. Moreover, some 2.2 billion was paid out on the loss of support for dependents of vehicle accidents which have lost breadwinners. In a country struggling to reduce the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment, the payment to dependents is critical as it draws a line for those families between facing abject poverty and ensuring their survival. Chair, the ANC government may not always get things right, and we will be the first to admit that in the attempts of rectification, but it's certainly a caring government for people of the country. The Road Accident Fund has placed many challenges in the past, both internally in terms of a limited funding in relation to its claims. National Treasury, through the intervention of the Minister and Transport and the department, has since stepped in to increase the funding to the fund. In the past financial year, through the restructuring of the fund, it was able to achieve a 3.1 billion in terms of surplus. This is a result of a review and the process of restructuring which has been commenced. There are a number of challenges which still need to be addressed in terms of the legislation as well as the functioning of the fund, including the role of legal fraternity associated with the work of the fund that requires to be regulated. There's no substitute for efficient administration, and this certainly has to improve at the fund, as duplicate payments are unacceptable. The funding model must be improved. All forms of corruption must be eliminated from the workings of the Road Accident Fund. It is unacceptable that the fund pays higher medical rates than the medical aids, and this must be corrected. Improving the financial state of the fund through reduction of liabilities does require restructuring. A balance between the revenue and claims need to be reached in favor of revenue for the fund to operate as a going concern. Chair, the Road Accident Fund has made slow and steady progress to improve the governance and operations, including its financial operations, through the appointment of the new board and ensure consequence management. Actuarial costs and investigation costs has been reduced through internal capacity building, as these are now treated as core functions. The changes required for improving the function of the fund in terms of reducing its liability must occur within the financial year through generating further surplus as part of the restructuring. Critical to the operations of the Road Accident Fund is ensuring safety on the roads to reduce the number of road accidents and fatalities. Efficient road maintenance will also have some effect of reducing accidents and fatalities on the road. Both these positive measures will ensure preservation of life and has the effect of reducing the number of claims, thereby reducing the upward pressure of funding the Road Accident Fund. 1/3 of fatalities on our roads directly linked to the failure in wearing seatbelts. We need to improve basic law enforcement and compliance to the rules of the road. Our civil aviation industry, which is a budgeted program of the department, functions on a world-class standards. Since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, civil aviation has not fully recovered. Both AXA and the ATNS, as state entities, have traditionally been financially stable state entities. The department needs to pay close attention to the financial health of these entities to ensure that they remain sound in governments and financially stable, as this always been the case since there's no transfers from the budget to these entities. Now is the time to implement expansion programs that will future-proof our airports and make air travel safer and less costly. New runways and upgraded airports, to name a few. The department needs to get used to the idea that it cannot be business as usual, as the people in their daily lives are frustrated by the pace of change in the transport sector. It is important for the department to note that the committee will be ensuring that there will be enhanced oversight, not just departmental outputs of its programs, but also of deliverable outcomes which improves the lives of the ordinary South Africans which utilize the transport sector. The committee wants service delivery to the citizens of the country, nothing else. We must be able to do more with a decreased budget in real terms and obtain greater value for money spent. In simple terms, we are expecting delivery as the ANC government represents the interest of the people, especially that of the working class and the poor. Our future economic development growth depends on fully functional transport system. The ANC supports Budget Vote 40 of the Department of Transport. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable MacDonald. Now I recognize the Minister of Transport, Honorable Minister Mbalula. Over to you, sir.
10 minutes. Thank you very much, Madam Chair and the honorable members for your contributions. I think first and foremost, I want to bring to your attention not like a broken record. There is somewhere where we are going in terms of the rail situation in the country. We have now adopted and introduced a national rail policy, which is going to intervene decisively in terms of our rail network, rail reserve, the branch lines, how we're going to revive them. And then we are also opening up to PSP, which is public-private participation, and which is not privatization, which we are going to be collaborating with through concessions in the implementation of the rail policy. Very soon we'll be meeting with the stakeholders to address that. That will address issues of freight and logistics, moving goods from road to rail, because that is the key and the fundamental issue when it comes to business and growth in that particular sector. And that is what we seek to do with the adoption of the road policy. We are turning PRASA around, and I saw that talking about the war room has just been, kicked out of the window by Honorable Hansinger. War rooms are implemented in situations of crisis to speed up implementation. What do we seek to speed up at PRASA? It's capital project, but a quick turnaround to get the trains back. And I'm repeating here in this platform. By October, November this year, all the 10 corridors will be back to operation. And I was at the war room yesterday, and the war room is up and functioning. We're building capacity at PRASA at the present moment, and this is what we're doing. This is a concurrent function. We do work of constructing roads, working with other spheres of government. You can go, if you want to politic, go to Western Cape, tell me you want to see potholes, because whenever there are raids, you will find potholes. Now we have said to our municipalities and all of us, let us have a strategy for closing of potholes, because whenever there are heavy rains because of climate change, that is not going to change. We even had a road in Dawa, which Tito Mboweni said, why do you need a in Dawa? Just fix the road. I agree with him. We must fix the potholes at the municipal level. Go around Johannesburg. If you want to play politics, we are not in charge. There's potholes left and right. Potholes bring about accidents. Potholes are a disaster. We must close them. It doesn't matter whether they are in the ANC territory or wherever they are. The IFP leader who spoke here, he must go to Moloto Road. 2 years back, the first thing I did was to transfer that road to Gauteng. We are finished with Moloto in the side of Mpumalanga and at the same in the side of Limpopo. Here in Gauteng, we are deep into construction. We have now allocated more than 2.8 billion to that project. It is operational. The Moloto people want rail. I have said to them, with the new policy, that rail is coming. And then we'll be working with them to get it back on track. It was mismanaged at a given point in time, but now we'll be back alongside reconstruction of the branch lines to get the rails back, working with the private sector, but we need feasibility study, whether or not that is feasible. So we're hard at work in relation to the Department of Transport, but notwithstanding challenges. And I'm happy we've got the leadership of Santaco here. We've got a pact that will be signing very soon out of the National Taxi Recruiter. That, among others, we're going to see for the first time the adoption of a subsidy policy for the taxi industry in South Africa. And then
Honorable Minister, 1 second, Honorable Minister, you are left with 1 minute.
We're deep in discussions about formalization and as well as professionalization of the taxi industry and addressing the empowerment. So we are moving ahead, and we're intervening also in terms of some of the challenges that we are facing. Thank you very much, honorable members, for your input. And everybody who came to this budget vote and who support the Department of Transport and the media for carrying us live. Thank you very much.
Long live Minister! Thank you very much, honorable members. Honorable members, you are kindly reminded that the debate on communication and digital technologies budget vote will take place at 16:30 on the Vitual platform. Honorable members, that concludes the debate and the business of the this Vitual mini plenary. The mini plenary will now rise. Thank you very much.
So, my na.